Johnny Mac, the breaking news. Jordan Davis's fifth-year option has officially been picked up, which guarantees him $12.9 million in 2026. And Jordan Davis is here to stay at least for the next 2 seasons in Philly, securing the run defense, the run-stopping element of the defense. Johnny Mac, your initial reaction there to Jordan Davis's fifth-year option getting picked up, which most of Birds 365 community was ready for, thanks to you.
Yeah, I don't think it's a surprise at all. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I tried to say one or the other. I don't think 13 million at this stage, and it's a little bit under that for a defensive tackle is much of an issue at all. It's basically just a placeholder anyway. And the Eagles now have a long time to try to work out some kind of extension. That to me is the difficult part. That's where you have to see where the value is. And run stopper, 2-down player, or, do they think he could be more than that? But I think he could be more that crowd. Like, I don't know what that looks like because I mean, you want your best pass rushers on the field. In what world is Jordan Davis going to be a better pass rusher than somebody like Moro Ajomo? I mean, how is that going to look? How is that going to happen? Even if you look at a rookie, like Robinson, I mean, he's a 300. He's a massive man. He's just not a pass rusher. And I think that was the mistake by I'm not even saying the Eagles expected that. But I think that was the mistake by a lot of draft people who looked at his athleticism and said, well, if this guy could turn into a pass rusher. I even heard some guys, and I'm not going to pick on him, but say he could be an edge rusher. He's so athletic. I'm like, what? There's more to it than athletic. It would be easy. You need technique and handwork and Chris Long was I saw on his interview, I think it was his podcast, but he was talking to somebody. He's talking about length of offensive tackles, what the difference, why they pay so much attention to length of offensive tackles, and he was talking about what you have to do to combat that as a pass rusher. It's very technical, fundamental technique. So I never envisioned that. So I think the expectations were out of whack. Now, can he improve as a guy who pushes the pocket? Yes. And that's what you hope for. And you saw some of that in the playoffs, by the way.
Yeah.
Because he played very well.
He played his best football probably in the playoffs.
Yeah, a lot of people did. And that was a magical run. But so you hope he can get to that point. But I don't see any way. And in fact, I see it going the opposite way, where you have lighter people rushing the passer. And guys like Jahad Campbell, stand-up rushers inside. Maybe that's where he fits in when he's completely healthy. I don't see someone the size of Jordan Davis being on the field in 3rd and 13 anywhere. Even at Dexter Lawrence, I could look at, so you want to be more impactful just in the flow of the game as a pass rusher, because obviously, on 2nd and 6, he may stay in the game. They may throw it. They may run it. He's got to be more impactful in those types of situations. But then you have to ask yourself, what is that worth? What is that worth? Essentially a 2-down player, but a high-level 2-down player. That's the difficult part.
So you think this is a placeholder for an extension? What type of extension you think they would give to Jordan Davis?
Well, that's the difficult part.
Yeah.
Like, where does it go? I'm not giving him Milton Williams money, especially when you have Jalen Carter going down the pike. He's not accepting 13 million
money, John. I know you talked about, that's just the way contracts work. I understand that, but 18 million, I think, is too rich for him, especially with
Well,
how many snaps he plays.
that's probably the wheelhouse of what you're talking about, I would think. And then it's, is it worth it?
Yeah, I wonder what
Um,
the Eagles are thinking on the inside of the locker room or inside the NovaCare complex on what the value is on that type of a player. Because I will say this, I do think he's valuable. Like if you can't stop the run in the NFL, you're not going to be a very good defense. So I think he brings that, and that's very valuable. The muddy part is obviously the price tag that you put on it, and building the roster, the rest of the roster, along with that price tag.
Yeah. So that to me has always been the bigger question. Like I've said, I think people get way too caught up um, on 5th-year options. And there will be guys. Now, sometimes it's a no-brainer and you just pick them up because the player's so good. But a lot of times, guys who don't get it picked up, even, have a good final year and teams work it out and do an extension. A lot of times players have been so bad, it's not even a consideration, and they are clearly going to move on. But from the Eagles standpoint, 12.9 million, they don't want that on their salary cap. That's just not the way they typically do business. And this is 2026 again, not 2025. This is 2026. So they have all that time. And they generally don't want that type of number on their cap, so they'll try to work out an extension if they want, and that's the difficult decision. What does that extension look like? What is it worth? But yeah, and Eagles offseason work. The only things announced, the first day was April 21st, which we told you. OTAs are May 27th and 28th, May 30th, June 2nd, 3rd, June 5th. Minicamp is June 10th. They never announce rookie camp in advance, but it's generally either the week after, it has to be the week after the draft or the second week after. So that's your window for that.
We'll see what happens with Jordan Davis, but the option is picked up officially. So Jordan Davis has guaranteed now $12.9 million coming to him in 2026, and that guarantees Jordan will be a part of the team for the next 2 years. So Jordan Davis is here to stay for the next couple of years in Philly, and we'll see what kind of ripple effects that might have as well, for new draft pick Ty Robinson, for more of a Jomo, for any of the other defensive linemen. The other thing about Jordan, John, or I think he has major value, is I do think he helps Zach Bond. I do think he helps Jalen Carter. I do think he helped Milton Williams last year. So, you got to put a price tag on that too, as well, where, he's kind of one of the cogs that makes the rest of the defense go, even if he's not out there for every snap.
Oh, I'm with you. I've been talking about that that's his whole job, is to make it
keep the linebackers clean.
Yeah. So, I mean, whether that happens or not, I certainly think the Eagles are aware of his value. But again, it's more difficult than that. It's can you get by? Can you get by with a lesser player? They're part of their success was, turning 1st and 10 into 2nd and 10 or 2nd and 9. And, I've always said about this player specifically, he's got it's almost, he's got to play worse to prove how valuable he is, which is difficult to do. So I think people inside the building know his value. And that's why Howie said what he said after the draft. But there's a difference between that and what they did, use the 13th pick on that type of player. And then all of a sudden, right or wrong, that plays into it when you're talking about salary.
Right. Midnight might bring up a good point here. In 2 years, the salary cap will be such that 18 will feel like 13. He might be right about that.
That's possible too.
Probably going to add 50 million to the cap.
But they're probably working on an extension, during next season. And again, 13, that's a little bit of a range, but 13 will be 15 and probably 17. That's a more realistic time frame, and they'll be trying to work on the extension. Like I said, they won't want him to play under 12.9 million for a cap number. But takes two to tango. Believe me, the Eagles were working on an extension for Milton Williams. Believe me, they were trying to sign Milton Williams. But after his first 3 seasons, he didn't get to play that much. They're probably, I don't know numbers, but they're probably trying to get him 8 to 12 million, I would say, at the high point. And Milton saw the landscape, and his agent gave him good advice and said, look, Fletcher retired. You're going to be the guy. You're going to have an opportunity to prove yourself. And he proved himself, and he got 26 million.
Yep.
Maybe Jordan Davis looks at it like that, and saying, you know what, I'm really good. People will know it, and I'll get a big number somewhere else. So it's a two-way street. It's very difficult contract negotiation, I would say.
Yeah, it is. The breaking news, though, is that his 5th-year option has officially been picked up. So he'll be here for 25 and 26 at the very least. And we'll see what happens from there. We'll keep you posted on Birds 365.